All right. Gonna need another project, I think. Unitarian Universalists come together under 7 principles. Principle number 4 is to engage in a safe and responsible search for truth and meaning. A safe and responsible search for truth and meaning. Ray, you need something from me down here? I'm not getting the pictures I was hoping to see? Of truth that I want to give you today is that knowledge is a model in the mind, a mental model of things that are out in the world. And I learned this pretty young. I think it was this book gave me a good sense of that. I'll tell you about that one in a little bit. But later on I heard this is called correspondence theory, which means if the model in your head corresponds well to the one to what's really happening in the world, then that's good knowledge and that's truth. So you'll find pretty quickly I don't believe in absolute truths. In fact, I'm here to make war on absolute truth and show that that's not going to happen. So if your model works for what you need it to do, then I call that truth. It's good knowledge, just good knowledge. Truth is often used to mean some other things, but that's what we're saying with it today. So here's the idea that I started sharing with the kids today. You can have multiple theories about a thing, and they illuminate different parts of it. You can have multiple theories about a thing that illuminate different parts. The toddler knows what a bicycle is. He says, Mom, a bike. Yeah, you're going to A+, you got it. You know what a bike is. But then they're 5 and they learn how to ride the bike. That's a whole different thing. Now it's no more a memory, recognize the thing and say the name, but there's a bodily feeling about it. I don't have a lot of memories of my childhood, but I do remember learning to ride that red bike in the parking lot of the seminary with my dad and him running along and pushing me. And there's something very engaging about that almost falling over, being in danger of falling over, feeling the wind in your face. And so I just want to say that to say that this knowledge is not a list of facts that you could be tested on in multiple choice tests. Knowledge is wider than that in the way I'm thinking about it today. Oh, what else could you learn about bicycles? Well, you could become a competitive cyclist and you'd have to learn a lot of things about the materials they're made out of and the techniques that I don't even know what that is. And then, maybe you want to open a bike rental business in Chiang Mai or Colorado or something. You need to go and see, what do those people think of bicycles? Are they saturated with bicycles? What kind do they want? So you could just go on and on learning more things. The point is, you don't get done. There's not a day when you just understand the bicycle. There's always some new aspect of it to see. People that believe in absolute truth, they always bring me this 2 + 2 = 4 thing. You guys believe 2 + 2 = 4? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Yeah, you suckers. There are a lot of arguments to be made about 2 + 2 = 4, but I will take it from the kindergarten perspective. When we teach kids this, they get 4 cubes on their desk, right, Gail? And we say, take the 2 cubes and the 2 cubes and slide them together. Now count and see how many. A lot of kindergartners already know that. But the ones who have trouble with it, I think the first way they tend to see it is just a procedure. Like, this is the directions. First, make a set of 2. Now make a set of 2. Now put them together and count the set. And then give me the answer. And that's sort of the way they grasp it. So then you can say, oh, you passed the test and put it on your report card. You know 2 + 2 = 4. But a little bit later, we learn subtraction. And they've got the same 4 cubes, and they're taking some away. And, then we said, there may be this, now tell me what the answer was. Okay, there's 2 left. But there's also, we hope there's some moment where that clicks, and they say, wait, this is the same thing happening again. And later on, they will learn multiplication. And later on, they'll learn fractions. And each one of these things will illuminate the issue of 2 + 2 = 4 more than it was illuminated before. So it takes on a different meaning in light of those other theories that applied to it. Yeah, sound good? Y'all don't believe it. You don't believe anything. Hey, I did a master's degree at Kennesaw State College. It's been a while. And one of the hopes I had was that I would learn how in the world do you teach kids to read and write. I had been teaching for 2 or 3 years already, and I had had some success. I went to see my principals. He said, I knew, it's the time for you to come to me. When you first become a teacher, it's just about loving the kids. And then after a couple of years, you're like, wait a minute, I wish I knew how to teach them better. So I went to the college trying to learn, what's the secret? How can I become the person who knows how to teach them how to read and write? And I'll tell you, the end of the long journey, I got a lot of theories, but the answer is that thing doesn't exist. That thing where you know how to do it, it just doesn't exist. What you do get is you get multiple theories about it, and you start to know more theories and more theories about it, but there's not a moment when you're done. There are people who know a lot better than I do how to teach kids how to read, and I still don't consider them done. But later on, I did run across a definition of expertise that said the expert is somebody who has a bunch of theories and knows which ones to apply in what case. And I would claim some expertise about reading at this point. If a child is not getting sight words, we have to memorize the word and be able to spit it out as soon as you see it. Well, then I think about modalities, like let's have something where they're touching. Let's have something where they're moving their body. Let's go in through some different senses to try to get this thing to stick for them. If a child is making wild guesses about their reading, I want to go to Marie Clay and her analysis of what cues they use to guess what a word is. And you start to notice which cues are you using, which one are you not using. I can teach you the ones you're not using yet. So that's what you use under those circumstances. 30 years ago, we had this beautiful thing called whole language. Anybody heard of whole language? And my college professors, they were just idealistic and so gung-ho, we'd finally broken through and gotten this wonderful thing. And 20 years ago, whole language was thrown out as being worthless. It was very important that you have explicit phonics instruction, and that just took over the world, and whole language got thrown out. But still today, if I have a child who is not motivated to read and write, whole language is the best explanation for me about how you handle the motivation. How you think about, Jeffrey has something he wants to say, and I'm giving him the way to say it. Or he has a book he wants to read, something he wants to know, and I need to think about what is the thing he wants to say, what's the thing he wants to know. I haven't seen any other theory that does that as well as the whole language, even though it's been kicked out of town. So this ability to use multiple theories is as expertise. I really like that. You could keep on learning new theories, more and more and more and more. And the question is, do we ever get to where there's no part of our cube that remains unlit? And I tried to think, do I have proof of that? Do I have some proof to offer them that there is always another way to look at? Maybe it's just an act of faith on my part, but I feel like there is always another way. I feel like, you see there's a couple of corners of this little cube that are still in darkness. If you're shining all those lights, there's something that's like even darker now with the contrast, right? It's even harder to see the part you're not seeing. Here I've got these theories about reading, but there's something I'm not seeing about it because I'm all wrapped up in looking at it with my theories. So that's my idea about knowledge. There's always some new knowledge you could get, always a new approach you could take to things, a new angle you could look at it. Someday in the very last unexplored corner of the universe, there may come something that changes all those other theories. Maybe now, human race is going to live on Mars, and we got to figure out how does a bicycle work on Mars. You never had to have a theory about that before. So we don't know what might come, the one theory to rule them all, and in the darkness, thank you, bind them. Tolkien, you got to know some Tolkien. All right, so we put all these theories together and we call it a worldview. Again, this is a theory I'm giving you. There's lots of other ways to think about all this. Some of you may be raising your hands like, yeah, but you're not saying, I know. There's a lot of other things you could say. But so here let's imagine we've got all these models together and they form a model of the whole world. And I pointed out earlier, sometimes these are physical sensations like the riding a bicycle. It's not always a list of facts. A bunch of things you could state in words. So that knowledge is, I like to think here of like rather than a static model of the world, of it being a simulation. We're familiar with computer simulations these days. That's why I chose the little Minecraft world. Anybody recognize that? It's a little simulated world we have in our head. And in my head, I go and say, if I say X to the congregation, they will say, wow! And instead, I come in here and you guys say, no! Something is wrong with the model. So I run the simulation to see what I can do. You go back and play through conversations. How's this going to go? What if I try this? The idea is you have a place inside your mind where you try things out. And if it's really good at explaining and predicting, that's truth. You got it. Oh, one more thing I wanted to say about this. I saw a guy, a famous skeptic named Michael Shermer, speak at a meeting of the Georgia Skeptics some years ago. And his talk was about, the main focus, as I remember, was people used to see ghosts, and now they're having that same experience, but they call it being abducted by aliens. So it was this idea like we updated the theory, even though the experience was the same. But the interesting part was somebody asked him, what if you saw a ghost? What if you go home today and you saw a ghost in your house? Would you believe in ghosts if you saw it? I think she's implying like, I've seen it. He said, no, I can't believe in ghosts because I don't have a theory that makes them fit anywhere. They don't fit in my worldview. So he was pushing this idea that you can't believe in, and maybe you can't even experience a ghost if you don't have a worldview that has ghosts in it, which is an interesting thing about knowledge, but it's kind of like it's hard to check if you're right. If you can't see things that you don't know about already, it's hard to check. How are we doing? Let's take the time. Oh my goodness. Where does your worldview come from? Oh, it comes from all these different things, right? the time and place you were born, the people that raised you, the experiences you've been through. Social groups are there putting pressure on you to believe one thing or another. But there's something wrong. This is supposed to have 8 arrows. I think that's just 7. Hold on. Sorry. See, there's this little one over here. See this one? What's that say? Can you read it? There it is. Philosophy. Philosophy is right here. And that's how much change we're going to make today in moving your worldview to a new place. The worldview is determined. It is very heavily determined by all the stuff that has happened to you. And our little efforts, I wanted a picture of a little sperm swimming along. Just a little tiny thing trying to pull be the little tugboat. If y'all have an image of a sperm, you can send me. That's helpful. So the fear is, I guess this is also an admission that I don't really believe in free will. I don't really think we have that much choice. And I'm going to stand here talking to you about all the choices you have to think about things and do things. I don't really quite believe in them, so that's a fuzzy issue. So that's why that's there. But here's my dad, Ben Cobb. This 1972, he invented going outside to smoke. And you can see what a big, we got no royalties whatsoever from that. Nothing, just nothing. But he taught me this, what I will call today the way of the thinker. He would bring to the dinner table, I heard it today from Bruce, I think, whatever can go wrong will. Work expands to fill the time allotted. Little pithy sayings, but it went on to bigger things, and that's why I brought these books. He introduced me to this one, Gödel Escher Bach. Anybody know this? Stop listening to me and go home and read it. It's so much better than anything I'm telling you. This is Douglas Hofstadter, Gödel Escher Bach, An Eternal Golden Braid. Came out about 1980, and he calls it a metaphorical fugue on minds and machines in the spirit of Lewis Carroll. Amazing piece of work. That's 30 years ago that he shared that book with me. And when I thought about this talk today, you wouldn't believe how many times it came up. You just wouldn't believe. If you want to think about 2 + 2 is not 4, it's a good place to go. And I'm going to talk about some heavy stuff today, some heavy stuff that you might be struggling to find the truth about. But the spirit in which I approach it is the spirit he did, like, look, I got something fun to think about. I found a cool idea. Can you believe this? And there's this way of life in which if you have to sit at the dentist office or you were stuck in traffic, you're not bored and you're not upset because you have something cool you've been trying to figure out. Having something to figure out. Now, I want to say this is not for everybody. Some people just don't like to think that hard, don't want to work on those subjects. But my father's in my mind passed on to me this feeling like it's fun to have something interesting to think about. And a lot of times those would be things that related to psychology or sociology, how people work, how groups of people work. Because once you get an insight into something like that, you see your interactions differently every day. It sort of pays off. So the treasure chest, the payoff is when you know more. Like the child learns how to ride a bike, or I learned how to teach kids to read. And so you should be curious and you should investigate. And when you know more, that's the prize. But sometimes the prize is also that you have something good to think about. So all of a sudden the be curious is also the prize, and the investigating is also the prize because you just enjoy the process. Now, as I say, this is one way of being. This is one way to approach truth and meaning, and there are lots of others. Isn't there a way of the dancer? Aren't there people who learn things with their body? I know there's a way of martial arts, people that say, I came to know myself by doing these physical things. And I think our society tends to focus and give a lot of credit to thinking. And I want to point out, we need not think a lot to love a lot, right? We need not think a lot to love a lot. So I don't want to say everybody has to follow the way of the thinker. It's one way that some of us like. And if you like it, hey, you're my people, we got something in common, that's great. And if you don't like it, that's okay too. You might have some amazing way that you could tell us about. I also wanted to say my father was also a fix-it man, a handyman, and I did not pick up that talent, right? My wife's here. Oh, my Lord, she's rolling her eyes. Yeah, thank goodness for David Willis, who comes to our house and fixes stuff sometimes. My father had this way of fixing things, and to me there's something big to learn there, that he'd be at the workbench, and right when you get stuck and there's something that you can't get loose or you can't get it on, he'd hum. Because that's the good part. Me, like the lawnmower won't start, and I'm like, it just won't start, there's nothing you can do. So this idea of taking your time and relaxing and being happy with the problem, I feel happy with these philosophical and psychological problems. I'm stuck, and it's like, oh, this one's going to last for years. I'm going to be working on this. I have been working on if you don't believe in God, then how do you construct a system of good and evil, a morality for yourself? I've been working on that since I was a teenager. And it's juicy. It can handle many traffic jams and doctor's offices. Oh, it's wonderful. Just wonderful. This is about everybody having their own way. Nietzsche said that you seek a picture of the world in that philosophy in which you feel freest, in which your most powerful drive feels free to function. So I'm not much of a dancer. I tried to be a martial artist. I got a few things out of it. But, you have your talents, and those talents are the way that you do philosophy, that you seek the truth. How can I be out of time and I'm not done yet? How's that happen? Who's in charge here? Georgia State, I had the pleasure of taking a class in the counseling department with wise old professor Ken Matheny, and he said a lot of things that I remember, but the most striking one was he said, as a therapist, you may have a client and you can see what their problem is. You can see, here's the thing that's sticking you. Here's the thing that if only you would go and reassess that and replace that with a better theory, everything would go smoothly for you. You just have to take out this one piece. But he said they can't take out that one piece because they're standing on it. The tenuously constructed scaffolding. The ground underneath you is made out of that worldview, is made out of those things that are you. And so to tell the patient, oh, just reach down here and pull out this piece, and then I'll give you this other piece and you can put it in, it's just not possible. And to me, it's been a really memorable image of like how hard it is to change, how hard it is to change from the truth you've been living with and move on to a new one. Mark, you said you wanted to have fun today. You said this is the least fun slide we have. I call this the dark clouds slide. Here you are with your worldview, and you want to be a whole, meaningful, part of a world that makes sense. You matter. Everything is beautiful and important, and you got it all together. But all these things are there in the way. Because the world has some nasty stuff in it that we just can't even look at, can't even think about. It's so nasty. Our relatives die. We can't make sense out of it. We're going to die. We don't have that meaning. And guess what you use to make up for those problems? That worldview. That worldview needs to get shaped in such a way that you can see yourself up on the cloud, that you can get past all of that dark stuff and say, yes, it's worth getting up this morning, it's worth taking a step, it's worth trying to do a thing. All of these are forces that keep you from, I'm trying to think of another way to say it, but keep you from being honest. They make you be dishonest so that you can just deal with what life actually is. And you end up getting some twisted things in your scaffolding that you're standing on that are holding you up. To me, this is sad, a sad image that this is the human condition. But the hope is that in that seeking truth and working on some of those things, that some of those clouds can be a little smaller and you can work through a little better. So hopefully there's a happy side to that. All right, so you got to decide what you're going to think about, what you're going to work on, what you're going to learn about, where you're going to seek truth. So first, remember the treasure chest. It's going to be good. It's not supposed to be, wow, I'm so messed up. I better spend some time. I better sit down for an hour and think hard because, Please don't go home and do that. We want to say, what's the prize I can win? What thing could I get under control and there would be a prize that I would win for that? Something that would be better. So how do you find what that thing is? Well, you go and read books. Oh my goodness, 1493, Charles Mann, I recommend that one too. It has stuck with me so hard since I read it about what happened after Columbus came, what happened before Columbus came, how the world changed. Amazing. Wow, James G's Discourse Analysis. I know it sounds dry. It's expensive too. But wow. Wow. I'm telling you, I just can't join a group and think about the rules of the group without going back to that. I mean, some of these things, they just become part of you. The Gay Science from Friedrich Nietzsche. This, I think, must have been my first book because it appears to have been stolen from the Nashville Public Library. Does it, you know, the Abby Hoffman book title that he had years ago, Steal This Book? Nietzsche's kind of like that. He's kind of like that. What else? The little brain here is just to say, again, to me, theories about psychology and sociology are a likely place for a breakthrough, a likely place for some treasure that you can carry around and believe, I know what's going on. I see it underneath. I'm seeing what's behind the curtain here. The little world at the bottom is to represent when you notice a mismatch. I thought this would happen and that happened. Somewhere there's a problem in my correspondence. The little group of people is to say people are always pressuring you to believe one thing or another. You might look and say, well, is it evidence for the existence of God that a lot of people believe in God? Well, I don't know. What's evidence? It maybe gets it considered. It doesn't count as proof that a bunch of people believe something. But you know, these days we have such a sense like, I'm with my people that believe my stuff. And if I were to go believe something else, I might have to go join the other group of people. So people are always getting mixed up. One of the things I will say is lacking in my theory today is that it's a very individualistic theory. And so in this individualistic theory, people almost appear as hostile to my work. Leave me alone and let me figure out what's true. So that's just my approach. And I see there's missing something. There's so many things you could do working with other people, thinking as a group, acting as a group, feeling as a group. That's not here today. And finally, ulterior motives. Those black clouds. I want to believe the truth, but I need to believe X, Y, and Z to see that I'm okay, to feel all right. Why aren't you still lying about the time? We better hurry up. Hey! Oh, this is one I made up. I really like this one. So at the airport, they have, or at least they used to have, the cop that would walk around with a dog trained for sniffing out bombs or marijuana or whatever it was. And I picture them working together, like the cop takes the dog over to a group of suitcases and say, check these, and the dog sniffs and says, they're cool, let's go. And it's interesting to me that the cop can't smell it, but the dog also can't do the job by itself. You know, it'll just go looking for cheeseburgers or whatever. And this is how I think that we have to search for truth, because we have to use different parts of the mind together. So here to me, the cop is like the intentional, conscious mind that's saying, here's the problem to work on, here are the elements we need to think about, but then you got to turn it over to the dog, right? You got to somehow go sleep on it. It was either Einstein or Edison used to always cut themselves in the morning shaving, because it's like after sleeping a new idea had come. They always cut themselves. So I think there are a lot of ways to apply this image of this is how you can work with your mind, that you need to turn it loose, you need to let intuition do its work. That's going to be a valuable part of any process of seeking truth. And this is just one way to think about it. All right, we're going to wrap up with a little story about dyslexia. I got to see while I was at Georgia State a renowned researcher, and I'm sorry I don't remember his name, but what I remember is everybody was whispering about how much grant money he got. He was apparently the top grant money earner, so somebody had voted him #1 researcher in dyslexia. And he told us, what we do is we take all the kids, and most of them learn how to read, and some of them don't learn. That's going to be you guys. Some of them don't learn how to read. And then among the ones that don't learn how to read, some of those we can say you had hearing loss as a child, you didn't get the right input. Some of them we say we found some visual processing deficits. We know why you didn't learn how to read. And when we have used up all of our tools to assess, there's some kids left, and we don't know why they don't know how to read. Guess what you call that? dyslexia. And parents would come to me and say, Ed is writing some letters backwards and we're afraid he has dyslexia. Do you think he has dyslexia? And for somebody to have it, it would have to be a thing. We'd have to be able to look in there and see there's some neurons, there's some chemicals, there's something. And apparently it is not that. It is just the placeholder for some leftover cases that we can't explain. And I just want to leave you with the thought that a lot of our concepts are like that. A lot of our concepts are placeholders for things we can't explain. And the researcher went on to explain, we make a decision about where we're going to draw this circle. How many are we going to include in calling that dyslexia? Which ones can we make some smaller groups? And when you make those decisions, you can have more accuracy if you only look at Joe. Why can't Joe read? And we can really be precise about that, but it's not helpful to anybody but Joe. And if we look at everybody, we say, why can't all of you read? Then we get some really vague stuff. So there's also a decision about how to draw it. So I think if we can look at a lot of our concepts as having kind of that empty quality, that we're not quite sure what's in there, and we can think about it was just a decision that was made about how wide to draw that circle and not just an absolute fact. Then it backs us off a little from this idea about facts, and I think it helps us seek the truth. Thank you.